Architect Jorge, first of all, I would like to thank you on the behalf of House Galleria for coming on the podcast, and we are really honored and happy to have you here. So let's begin this session.
My name is Jorge Bolio. I'm an architect from Mexico, especially from Yucatan Peninsula. I'm also directing right now the School of Architecture from Universidad Marista here in Merida. So I have to balance my time between these two very, very important jobs.
Yes. Important roles you are playing.
Exactly. And I've been doing architecture since 2001.
Okay.
We don't have a huge portfolio because we have very small practice, and we like to keep it that way. I think in order to have control of the design process, I like to be involved in every part of it. So we're very careful about the process.
In order to keep control on things, you want to keep your portfolio, not your portfolio, your practice not very big. And so my question to you, Mr. Jorge, is because I have had this chat with so many people who don't want to grow as a business because they want to keep control of the quality. So do you think that it is when your practice get bigger and bigger and bigger that those bigger practice, it is harder to keep the control of the quality of projects? And why do you think it is so?
Of course, I think so. I think there's very few practice in the world, very few architects in the world who can manage having several projects and keep the quality. I think we can count them fingers. One of them.
Yes.
So or I think, for example, my practice is we've never been more than 5-6 persons in the office. So we care a lot in time of the design process. We care a lot in time with clients talking. I think if you rush things up, things will be messed up. At least in our studio, we work that way. I always told the clients that a project takes the time that it needs, like a newborn baby.
Yes.
You know, you can have a baby in 7 months. Of course, you can have a baby in 7 months, but you're in risk. And also, if you are over the 9 months, so a baby needs 9 months, and that's the ideal time. That's the same in architecture, I think, especially in the design process and also the construction process. No? And you can rush things up, but there's always risks there. So we like to keep the rhythm of the work like flowing naturally.
What kind of projects you are more interested in, like residential projects, commercial projects, or mix of both of them, or like what is your choice of the projects which you usually undertake in your?
I think like most office in the world, the main project is the residential project, because it's more often that you work in a residential project than in a hospital project or whatever commercial projects, etc. But I really like every kind of typology.
Yes.
I enjoy very much designing houses, but I found every project delicious at the start. No? So we don't have a particular interest in some typology. We do all kinds of projects.
Since I am also an architect, and what I have faced that most of the time the faculty we have in our architecture colleges, they don't have a lot of experience of actual buildings. So do you think that as an architect, since you also have your own practice and you are also active in your academic life also, so do you think that in our architecture colleges there should be more practicing architects who are teaching to students?
I think it's very, very, very important. I'm from a very young university. My university was found States, started in '96,
Okay.
so it's very young university, but it has a very clear philosophy about our teachers.
Yes.
Most of them have their own practice. They're professionals. They are not only teachers.
Okay.
And I think that ingredients is very important in learning architecture, because you have to learn from practice, not only from theory or thinking what it could be a project, but in practice. And an architect who teach, I think most of them should have their own practice. Not only in the design area, but also in investigation or political decisions, but practicing. I think that's very important.
Yes, because that's how only the people who know the actual thing they can teach to the students. Otherwise, if you have read something from the book and then you are telling that to the student, then that doesn't make a lot of sense. So, Mr. Olvi, my question is that how did architecture happen in your life? Like, when did you decided to become an architect, and how was your journey to become an architect? Would you like to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. I didn't realize I would like to be an architect until I was probably 18 years old, when you have to make your choice about what you want to do with your life. At that age, I think we're all very immature. Very few
Yes.
people really know what they want to do with their
Yes.
life at age of 18.
Yes.
So I have a lot of relationship with young people that want to start studying architecture. I talked with them about that, and I told them that they have all the rights to make mistakes at that age. In my case, my mom was always pushing, you need to be an architect, you need to be an architect. And I was like, no, I don't think so.
But why your mom was pushing you to be an architect? She's an architect, or?
No. I don't know. She always knew.
Okay.
My
Okay.
father was not an architect, but he teaches in an architecture university, other
Okay.
than myself.
Okay.
He's a sociologist.
Okay.
And at that point of my life, here in Mexico, you need to study some area in order to go to college. I mean, if you want to do some engineering, you have to start your senior year in high school has to be mathematics area.
Yes.
Right? You want to be in medicine, you have to be in biology's area.
Yes.
So our university didn't really care about that. It
Okay.
opened all the possibilities.
Yes.
So I was studying biology
Okay.
my senior year,
Okay.
and I understand at that point that I really didn't like it. So the choices I had were architecture. So I jumped in and learned very fast, in a very few hours, in a very few days, that I was in the right place. So it was kind of a discovery, like architecture should be learned. It's
Yes.
an experience, it's a discovery.
And my question is like, how did you realize this, that you are meant to be here? Because you like buildings, you like about learning about buildings and how you make them. Like, what was your moment of realization and how it happened that you are made for this?
The most important thing I think is the way you learn. You learn by doing.
Yes.
You don't learn by studying. You learn by doing it. And I always like that way of learning more than the way that you learn law or on ability or whatever, all those like less side of the brain learning. I really
Yes.
like more the right side of the brain learning. So that's when I realized that I like it. I always love to draw, which doesn't have to be necessary,
Yes.
right? But I started loving it and enjoying it in the process of the learning architecture.
Yes. That I can completely understand. And Mr. Jorge, my another question is that since you are active in the architecture college also, and you see that in real world also, like there is a lot of difference of, because so many new softwares are coming. So do you yourself see that those architecture softwares are helping architecture industry in getting better and better, or they are not helping architecture industry? What is your view on this?
I think, of course, they can help, but they can do a lot of harm also. I saw all software as a tool, like changing from a pencil to a pen,
Yes.
from a pen to a brush, or from a
Yes.
brush to a mouse.
Yes.
It's just a tool, and I think most, no, not most, but several schools of architecture are betting everything on technology, and we're stopped learning the architecture fundamentals, and we're letting fundamentals be chosen by a computer.
Yes.
I think that's happening in a lot of areas, probably medicine, probably I don't know, engineering, maybe special engineering.
Yes.
So students are not learning critical thoughts, but how to use a machine.
Yes.
And for me, that's very dangerous. If you use it well and wisely, it's a great tool for architecture.
Yes. And
it's always that danger of trusting too much in the computer.
Yes. And like several weeks ago, I got a chance to talk to one of the very good and great artists from Belgium, and what he explained me about, like, with all of these increasing increment in technology, still we need to be very focused on the experiences, because as an architect we have to craft experience. And my question to you about experience is that since a lot of materials are changing these days, so when you go into the market and you as an architect have to choose material for your client, so do you think that as we are getting more and more technology advanced, do you think that we are going in the right direction in terms of the choice of materials which we are using these days in our buildings?
Well, starting in choosing materials, I think, I don't know if I understand the question very well, but I think I did. For my clients, for example, I always make them touch the material, see the material, and be very close of them in a lot of formats, because material change in formats, changing textures, changing light, changing temperature, changing a lot of things. So I think technology and virtual architecture can be very disappointing, maybe sometimes, if we let our clients trust too much in technology. Maybe they are not understanding a lot of the project, or they are understanding more than they should understand.
Yes.
Also,
yes.
I mean, they see a render, or they see this virtual walkthroughs.
Yes.
And they think the sun in their house is gonna be always like the same sun they see on the render, and
Yes.
the birds, and
Yes.
the light, and
Yes.
the leaves on the floor.
Yes.
And that's not reality. No?
Yes.
Reality
Yes.
has a lot of things,
Yes.
and imperfect things, that I think is a very important part of architecture.
Yes.
Not being perfect.
Yes.
I think good architecture is not perfect.
Yes.
And I always like the process to be more physical, more real, in touching things and discovering in the process of the construction and the design process, discovering a lot of things that not necessarily has to be planned like 100% of the process.
Yes. And since you just mentioned about your process, so we would like to more about your process from the beginning. Like, suppose when you are getting any project, or when a client approaches you, what is the first thing? Like, how do you start the designing process? Like, what is your process? Would you like to explain a bit about that?
Every process in this office starts with learning. We have to learn. I mean, we know already the methodology. We know already the concept of a house. We know already the concept of commercial building. I mean, general concepts are always there, but we have to start learning. We have to start listening the place. We have to start listening our client. We have to start listening the people that are gonna use the building, because that's always new, and we have to learn all that in order to start with this strategic part of the design, which I think is very important. Not we never start with the form. We start with strategies of orientation and wind and shadows. Here in Yucatan, we have a very warm conditions, so our architecture is based on fresh wind and shadows. That's what we have to look for here. All the other things are just a consequence of searching from good temperature and shadow.
So what you are saying that initially the first thing you always look for is the temperature and the shadows, and then everything comes after that automatically.
We have to at least accomplish getting that, so we have a comfortable place to live or to work or wherever. But I always begin with architecture fundamentals.
Okay.
We don't. I think this avant-garde concepts of architecture that could start with a command on a CPU and some let's say factors, and let the software do all our work. No, we don't really use that process. And a very good part of the process is questioning always what are we doing. What are we doing is correct or is not correct? Is it fine or it's not fine? Does it work? Doesn't need to work? So it's a lot of going back and forward in the design process.
Yes, and what you mentioned right now is that you always question yourself, your process, that what we are doing is satisfying or right or not. A lot of time what I feel that there are some architects who are very passionate with the project, and suppose they are done with 90% of the design process, they are almost about to complete the project, but then they realize no, something is wrong and it should not be like this, and then they change the entire thing. Do you believe that that is the right thing to go with the things?
If it's not right, that is the right thing to do. But we also have to think in our clients. I really care about time. I told you a few minutes ago. They
Yes.
also care about time. So there are things that we can change in the entire process. But if the first decisions are correct, the next ones are very easy to change. No? I mean,
Yes.
where you settle a building, where does it look? If it has to look north, south, east, or west, depending on the latitude and the conditions of the place. I mean, that critical decisions, if they are right, a lot of things can be wrong.
Yes. Mr. Augie, Mike, another question to you is, because now what we are discussing, it is very much related to what a professional architect does. But then there are so many times, suppose if my house is already done, it's already completed, and then now I don't have a lot of money to hire a professional architect, or then not just I don't have money, but then there are so many times when people, they themselves want to improve their homes. So do you think that you can advise something to someone who cannot afford an architect, or who cannot afford a very good architect, and then they want to improve their lives a bit, they want to rearrange their house or something? Like, is there anything that someone can improve their sense of design by doing something
By themselves?
no, my question is, suppose I have a house and I don't like my house, but I cannot afford an architect, but I want to change few things. So is there anything that you can suggest me that, okay, I can follow this thing to improve my house? Okay, like
I think that's one of the biggest responsibilities of an architect. I mean, people in need. Architecture, for start, is a service.
yes,
It's a service in order to improve people's lives. So I understand, of course, that we cannot be doing pro bono work 24/7.
yes,
But I think it's supposed to be in your architect DNA. No? So here in Mexico right now, there's a very important movement of social architecture. There's several practices doing a great job with self-construction and social architecture and collaborative architecture, which is very important in our country. No?
yes,
You know,
yes,
our reality is not
yes.
the best of all. So we have to be working all together, and this movement right now is very important.
Yes. And can you please give me one example, like how do you think that collaborative architecture can help the overall society? If you can share me just one example or one story.
Well, you can search the work of Comunal,
COMUNAL. Okay.
These are two female architects that are doing an outstanding work on social architecture.
Okay.
And they always have to work with the community, and they work all together. They don't impose anything. On the contrary, they just guide the work of the community in order to build some projects that are good for community, not only in houses, but also social buildings.
And they are working actively in Mexico.
Yes, rural, especially in rural or environments.
Okay. And you mentioned one more thing. You mentioned the word responsible architecture. So from the word responsibility, because what I always feel that as an architect, it is a huge responsibility on our shoulders when a client is coming to us, because probably anywhere in the world, when client is going to build the house or any building, it is going to be the biggest investment of their life. Do you think that as an architect we have very big responsibility on our shoulders when a client is coming to us for a project?
I agree on that. I think people save money for several years in their life so they can have a better place to live, or so they can have a business or a restaurant or an office. So it's that's something also great in architecture, that we work with happy people.
Yes.
Our clients are always in the best time of their lives.
Yes.
And that's where responsibility really falls in our desk, no? Because you cannot see otherwhere other than your client and their needs and their dreams. And I mean, of course, it's a responsibility. We're playing with a lot of time invested and a lot of money, and we have to be wise with that.
Yes, definitely. And since you mentioned about restaurants, my question is that these days we are having a lot of architecture practices who are not doing just designing of the restaurants. What they are doing, they are helping the owner, the client, to brand their place. So
sorry, I'm sorry, I just lose you for about 15 seconds.
No worries. Can you hear me now?
You were telling me about restaurants and
Yes. I'm saying, since you mentioned about restaurants, these days what I'm getting to know, that there are a lot of practices who are not just working as an architect, like they have the business expertise also, so they are designing the place and they are helping the clients as consultants to make them run the place. So do you think that as an architect we can also work with multiple disciplines, that we are also an architect but at the same time we are also providing them some other services which helps the client? Or do you think that it is not a right way for an architect to go forward?
Not as an architect, but as a designers, no? And we can make a lot of decisions. Our the way we learn architecture is the way every designer learn design.
Yes.
So I mean, the very specific things of course change, but learning is pretty much the same. Like and as a designer, we can provide really good advice about several things. Of course, we have to be associated with somebody who's expert in the theme.
Yes.
But I think in our learning process, we can see things that most people or most professionals can't see, and not because we're better or not, but because how we learn.
Yes.
How we see things.
Yes. I think what you are saying makes a lot of sense, because the only way for us to do our work is research, because for every project we do a lot of research, and because of that we have a lot of understanding of the project. Like you agree with this, what I'm saying, that because we do a lot of research of everything, that's why we have perspective on a lot of things.
Yeah, that's the learning process I was talking to you about. We have to learn, we have to research. We don't. There's this great architect, very old right now, but a lot of experience. That I heard him to say that an architect is a person who knows how to build, but always have to learn about the project he's going to do.
Yes.
You can already done 1,000 houses, but the next one is still going to be a learning experience.
Yes.
Research is very important.
Yes. I think there is a saying that for an architect, every house is a brick, and his journey is getting laid brick by brick, because with every house you get better as an architect or as a designer.
With every project.
Yes. And would you like to share maybe one or two or of your story which you can share from your past experience while working on any project, like which was very challenging, but then somehow you solved that challenge in your project?
I think one of the projects that teach me most of things I already know was the first project we do here in Mexico. It was a very small project, like every first project, but it was about 3 hours away from the place that I live. That was something meaningful. The place, it was outstanding. It was a Mayan ruin, and vegetation, jungle. The place was really important. There were also a community that was very interested in the thing that we were doing, and it's supposed to be it's called cultural center, but it's not a cultural center. Also, but they also work with culture.
Okay.
Cultural center, not at the scale of cultural center, but Mayan culture was very interested in that.
Okay.
And money was important, the place was important, everything was important. We were learning. We have all the time in the world to do that, so we were very careful about details.
Yes.
And we participated in the construction process. So
yes.
It was a whole experience.
Yes.
Which start drawing the way we wanted to do things.
Yes.
I think because of that project, I'm very careful about the process and about almost every single decision in the project in the office. So I think it started there. And I'm talking to you about 35 square meters. About a few years after that, we won a competition here in Mexico with with an amazing team, an amazing associate, which was the Senate building in the Mexican Republic in Mexico City. And of course, we were very young back then, and we all learned from that building because it was, I mean, still is very important in our country.
Yes.
And scale very different, but learning was very as important in the first project, 45 square meters, than this one that has 70,000 square meters.
Yes, very true. And like, I think this is how we as an architect get shaped up, because when we are getting challenged by the project itself, so we learn a lot. I have one question in my mind. Every architect or every designer have their own style of designing, or their favorite style of designing. So what's your favorite style of architecture? Do you have any favorite style or not?
Having no style at all. That's what we choose.
Okay.
Style come from the place. Style come from our client needs. Style come from technology that we have in our hands.
Yes.
So I think style should respond. I found very difficult to think that everything that I do has to be in the same style, so people know, oh, this is a work from Jorge Bolio. No, I don't believe in that. I believe there are several more important things that
than style.
Recognizing someone's work.
And do you have any favorite architect?
Yes, I do.
Who's
in my life?
Sorry?
I still learning a lot from Louis Kahn.
Louis Kahn.
Of his work.
Yes.
Right now, and they are very different. I really like Alberto Campo Baeza's work, and Renzo Piano, discipline and technology. So
yes.
I have a few master architects in my table all the time, because I repeat, we are always learning, and we're not, of course, done being architects. We're all starting to be an architect.
Yes. And so many times what I feel that as an architect, more than the end result, we should start teaching our next generation about the process, that how is the process, because I think at every stage the process change, and so it is very important for us as an architect to learn the process from those master architects, like how they carry out the process for different projects, every project they are doing.
Right now, I think young architects are searching success more than doing a great service in architecture. I think that's very, very, very dangerous. This tool is amazing, but it can be really dangerous for young students or young architects that really just looking for likes and looking for, I heard this expression the other time, Instagram moments.
But do you think that there are some positive things about also these things which are happening on Instagram and other things which you just mentioned, or there are no positive things?
I think for diffusion and promoting yourself, they are very good, but promotion should be a consequence of doing a good job, and not the other way around. You cannot start practice with this character in social media, and trying to get likes, and not starting with your mind and your pencil.
Yes, please go ahead.
I'm very firm about that in our school, for example.
And do you think that in schools, when we are training young architects who will go out and become architects, that we should also teach them about not just the craft, the art, which is architecture itself, but also about the business, that we should also give them some sense of business, that how they are going to build their own practice? Do you think it is important that we should teach them in the school?
It's very important. I think we don't get there as much as we should, but because we always learn from that, but it should be a really good push to young students to learn certain things, especially the business part that you're talking about,
Yes.
which eventually they will learn it, but they will have to fail. Maybe that's the way, but I think we can be thought about that part.
Yes, because as young architects, when what I've seen that when people go out, it is very harder for them to kind of get their feet on the ground, because like what I have seen mostly, that because the people who are already established, it is harder for young people to enter in the industry and to get the projects. So do you think that there is some way that when someone is going out in the industry, that there is something which everyone should follow, that you give some advice to those people like who are going in the industry?
I think, no, I don't really sure if in the whole world works, Mexico works, but here young architects, for example, they always start with their auntie's bathroom and their mother's garage.
Yes.
How you start, I believe, everywhere, but there are very good possibilities here.
Yes.
I think the main advice is that you have to want doing things right.
Yes.
That should be your impulse. Doing things right, not appearing in magazines, not appearing in books and getting lectures all over the world. You have to start doing things right. That will take, I think, everywhere you want to go.
Yes, I think what you are saying, it's completely right, because there is a lot of bad influence on this generation, because everyone wants to be in the magazine and not focusing on the art itself. Because if they focus too much on the art, then I think magazine will come and follow them. I think it should be that way, not the other way around.
They are thinking in their success instead of thinking of the success of their clients and the success of the project that they are doing that time.
Yes.
There are two very different things.
Yes. And do you think that people who are coming out in Mexico, that specifically now I'm talking about Mexico, like so many students, which your students who will come out in coming years and become an architect, like would you suggest them firstly for 5 or 10 years to go and work for someone else and then start venture out themselves, or would you ask them to go the way they want to go?
Where should they go?
Like how should they enter into the industry? Firstly, they should go and learn from someone, from a master for 5 or 10 years, or should they start on their own?
I think it's very important always have somebody to teach you a few things, and other things that you have to learn by yourself.
Yes.
But it's very important to start working in someone's office, because university doesn't give you all the knowledge.
Yes.
No one. But if you get something from your university, I mean, you get something from the place that you work, you get something from your experience, from your own practice, you will start molding yourself as an architect. But,
yes.
I think it will be harder if you don't get one of these.
Yes. So the composition is very important, I think, then, that you need to know everything. And
we have to know. We don't have to. Our clients think that we know everything, but I always say we don't know everything, but we know a little bit of everything.
Yes, I think that's a very good saying for architects. That architects are usually master of master of all trades, because we have little bit of understanding of so many things, and that's why we can start our basic research on that. Okay, you know about few things, and then we start our research.
We have to be very curious about everything. We have to learn a little bit about everything, and
yes,
when the time comes, then we we will get to an specialist and we'll make our work work. But
Yes, yes.
we cannot pretend to know everything. Just
But since you just mentioned about curiosity, so now my question is that so many times when I see in architecture students, and not just in architecture student, in so many people, they lose their curiosity. So do you think that there is a way that we can spark curiosity in those people, or in young people specifically, that they like, is there something what we can do with the people so that they become more curious?
I think it's very easy for someone to lose curiosity. I've found myself several times. Some, I found myself suddenly questioning my work and questioning why is this house looking so much like the last house if the conditions are very different, or why am I doing these things like thematically? And sometimes we just said we have to stop, you have to look backwards, get to fundamentals and start all over again. And that's where curiosity teaches a lot, because you have to unlearn the things that are driving you like unconsciously, and learning different things, or not learning but observing some other things that are in the context that are very good tools in order to design a good building.
Yes. And I think there is something very great about good architects. Like, sometimes they don't even care that if they have worked on a project for 6 months, but if they don't like it, they just do it all over again. And then what we see is that in just next 15 days or in just next 20 days, magic happens. Because I think what you just said, that this is how we can push our curiosity if we don't accept the wall which is coming as which is not letting us having the satisfaction which we deserve.
Right now I'm doing a 5-story apartment building in our
city
host here in Yucatan.
Okay.
And we've been through, I don't know, more than 10-15 layers, and we're not satisfied with them. We have to talk to our client, because I know we're in a hurry, but
yes,
I cannot give you this that I'm not comfortable with.
Yes.
Maybe you are, but I'm not, and if I'm not giving you my best. So
yes,
we have to do 2 or 3 more, and suddenly, like you say, magic happens.
Yes.
And everything just may click.
Yes. And
you feel comfortable, you feel happy, and everything just start going very, 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 very fast.
Yes.
Not like the part of the process. And that's what happened. Maybe it will happen the first time, maybe it will happen on the 20th time, but eventually you'll get there. But only if you keep working.
Yes. Yes, completely right. But do you think that sometimes when you are not satisfied and you are very much how should I say, you are holding the hand of perfection, so you also lose a lot of time? And when you are losing a lot of time, then, because look, when you are a designer, so you are the creator, so basically everything starts from you. And suppose if I am a developer, I am a real estate developer, then it is for you, it's your perfection, your everything. But for me, it is my life, it is my business. So do you think that sometimes this also happens, that people usually lose a lot of time also, because some people cannot come on the thing that they are looking for, and they just keep on looking and looking and looking?
That's, I think, a disease we all have. We are always trying to look what is not right in everything. That's the mind of a designer. We have to look for the things that are not right.
Yes.
So we can improve them. I think that always happens with your work. That's, I think there's no way you can get rid of it.
Yes.
But we have to be sure always what are the main things of your strategy.
Yes.
If they are correct, it doesn't matter if the construction is not right, it's not perfect. It doesn't matter if your material selection. I think a very good space can remain over some other situations that are not ideal. Or
Yes.
if the main thing of the process is
Yes.
correct, maybe some others don't mind.
Yes, you are right.
And we have to express that to our clients.
Yes.
We don't have the 100% the control of the 100% things of the building, but we have control of the very important parts. So
Yes.
your business is going to work. There are eventualities, of course, but
yes,
the main parts are correct.
Yes, you are right. And so now my final question is that Mr. Jorge, do you have some favorite materials, like what you always look for when you are designing a building? Like, do you have something which is always like you always go for that material first when you are designing any building? Do you have that any material of yours?
Not a favorite material, but we don't have a very large material palette here in Mexico. I mean, we could, but it's not wisely to use
Yes.
some material that we don't have here, like 20 minutes ago from the place. So we always look for very economic materials.
Yes.
Telling you that our situation is not the one that can allow us to spend more money. Even if the client can pay it, I think it's not right to just waste money.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. No? So very humble materials, very honest materials, very local materials. And I think that's, and we're getting back to the beginning of the conversation, that's fundamentals in architecture.
Yes. It's a rapid fire round in which I gave you two options, and out of those two options, you have to select one very quickly. So let's begin. US or China?
US.
BMW or Mercedes?
Mercedes.
Black and white or colorful?
Colorful.
Spain or France?
Spain.
Rolex or Hublot?
Don't like watches.
Okay. Vodka or whiskey?
Whiskey.
Okay. Okay. With that said, thank you so much for giving us your time. We are really grateful for you.